was the early morning of September 18th, 2024. While the Zamora family was sleeping in Tecate, Baja California, a man entered their house through the back door with the sole intention of hurting Ariday, a teenage girl just 14 years old. But who could be capable of doing something so cruel? Hi, I'm Pa, and in this video we're going to talk about the terrible case of Ariday Zamora. A lot of people requested this, and recently the sentence was handed down to the person responsible. So here is all the public information. Ariday Rendon Zamora was born in Tecate, Baja California, Mexico. She lived with her aunt, cousin, younger brother, a baby just 9 months old, and her mother, Yvette Zamora, who was a single mom. Yvette got pregnant at 17. Ariday's father didn't take responsibility for raising his daughter, but Yvette always worked very hard to make sure her little girl never lacked anything. It wasn't until recently that Edgar, her father, got involved in Ariday's life and they started to have a good relationship. Ariday is described as a responsible, cheerful, smiling, kind, and intelligent girl. She got very good grades, dreamed of studying criminology, had lots of friends, and stood out in sports, especially boxing. She hadn't been practicing it for very long, but her coach and other local boxers said she had a lot of talent. They nicknamed her La Cobrita because she was so agile and fast. Ariday was 14 years old when everything happened. She had a boyfriend named Carlos who was the same age, and everything seemed perfect in her life. Good friends, a good boyfriend, good grades, good at boxing, and a good relationship with her parents. Ariday was supposed to have a future as bright as she was, but sadly, someone took away all her possibilities. On September 18th, 2024, Ariday's family was gathered in the living room. Around midnight, Ariday said goodnight to everyone, said she was going to bed, picked up her little brother in her arms, and together they went to their room. The two of them shared a room. Soon after, her aunt, cousin, and mom also went to bed. An hour later, at 1 a.m., her aunt heard strange noises, but she mentioned that they have dogs in the house, so if someone had broken in, the dogs would be barking. Or so she thought. She tried to go back to sleep, but a few minutes later, a man entered her room and, shouting, asked her, "Where is Rendon?" Her aunt was very scared and refused to tell him. She only answered him, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Yvette heard this and ran to the room where Ariday was sleeping. But when she got there, she saw this man pointing a firearm at her daughter's head, and before she could do anything, the man pulled the trigger. Ariday was asleep when she was shot in the head. She was holding her baby brother in her arms. Her mother screamed, "No, why are you doing this?" But the man ran away. Her mother started to chase him, but as they were going down the stairs, the man turned toward her and started shooting at her. Fortunately, he didn't hit her. He didn't physically hurt her mother, but Yvette was devastated after witnessing her daughter's life being taken away. Yvette said this, "I felt like time stopped. I watched as he shot my daughter in the head. It must be the worst thing that can happen to you as a mother, to see someone take your daughter's life right in front of you." For weeks, that image haunted Yvette, an image impossible to forget. The aunt called emergency services at 1:44 in the morning. The ambulance arrived immediately. The paramedics took Ariday to the General Hospital of Tecate, but when they arrived, the hospital staff told them that unfortunately they couldn't treat her because they didn't have the necessary equipment and that they needed to take her to a larger, better-equipped hospital. Sadly, Ariday passed away in the ambulance at 6:16 a.m. on the way to the other hospital. Her mom and aunt went to the Baja California State Attorney General's office to give their statements about what happened. Because of the level of violence in the case, the first thing people thought was that it was organized crime, because who else would break into a house with the sole purpose of taking the life of a teenage girl? But even if it was organized crime, it would still be strange, because what would be the reason for specifically targeting Ariday? She was a well-behaved girl. She didn't get into trouble or hang out with those kinds of people. As for physical evidence at the scene, there wasn't much. The doors and locks weren't damaged. The attacker came in through the patio door. That door was always left unlocked. But only people close to the family and the family itself knew this information, no one else. Could it be that the attacker was someone close to the family? Someone who had already been inside the house before? Yvette said that could be a possibility. Maybe the attacker had already been in that house, or maybe it's someone very close to her daughter, and her daughter shared this information with them at some point. Or maybe they just got lucky. Maybe he tried to get in through the front door first, and when he saw it was locked, he tried the back door and found it was open. No one really knows. The detectives asked Yvette for a physical description of the attacker, but she said she couldn't really see him because it was dark, he was wearing black clothes and a hood, so she couldn't see his face. But she mentioned that she managed to see a small scar on his right hand. She saw it when he was holding the weapon. That detail became important when it came time to identify him. They asked Yvette if Ariday had ever mentioned being afraid of someone, if she was being bullied, or maybe if she had problems with her boyfriend. Yvette said that her boyfriend was a good kid and they didn't have any problems. She didn't have any problems at school either. No one was bullying her, but she said that her daughter had mentioned 2 people she no longer trusted. They used to be close, but now she didn't trust those people anymore. It was a man and a woman. Yvette gave the officers the information about these 2 people so they could investigate further. Ariday had told her mom that she didn't feel safe being around those 2 people, but she never imagined it was something as serious as being physically attacked, much less having her life taken. But the fact that Ariday mentioned she didn't feel comfortable or safe with these people wasn't really evidence. So Yvette took her daughter's phone and started checking her conversations. That's when she discovered something that left her frozen. There were lots of messages between her and a 19-year-old man named Ismail, messages where Ismail was harassing the teenager. Here's one of many. Seems like you can't even send me a damn message, Ariday. You really like playing hard to get. Why won't you answer me? Why did you block me? But who is this man, and why was he talking to Ariday like that? Ishmael, also known as El Chino, met Ariday a year earlier, meaning she was between 12 and 13, and he was 18. They met because he's the cousin of one of her best friends. They would hang out from time to time, always in a group, so it didn't seem strange to Ariday. It wasn't until they went camping that Ariday started to feel uncomfortable around him. She mentioned to her mom that El Chino had bad friends, and that this time he invited them along. They were several men who had weapons and rode motorcycles. Ariday thought it would just be her friend and El Chino camping. And even though none of the men did anything bad to Ariday, she didn't feel comfortable and didn't want to keep up this friendship with him. She did consider him a friend, but not a close one. They only hung out because he was her friend's cousin. They never went out just the 2 of them. She didn't want to talk to him anymore, so she started to distance herself. She stopped hanging out with him, stopped answering his messages, and kept her distance. But Chino didn't take it well at all, so he started harassing her on social media. When Yvette saw all the messages, she went to the authorities to have him investigated. On September 21st, Ariday's funeral was held, attended by her family, friends, people from the community, and her boyfriend Carlos, who played her favorite song on guitar. They also held a tribute for her at the middle school.
Ariday Rendon Zamora. Fly high, little girl. Fly all the way to our Father God's house. And let's give a big round of applause to our dear student so she knows how much we love her. Let's give a very, very big round of applause for her performance.
Weeks went by and there was still no news or suspects, despite the evidence her mother gave to the authorities. On October 7th, dozens of people marched in Tecate demanding justice for Ariday.
My daughter was innocent. My daughter was asleep. I saw exactly how they killed my own daughter. I saw exactly how that small bullet entered her hand. I saw how that coward ran away. I myself have seen how the government does nothing.
Yvette said this, "I've given them so much evidence, my daughter's phone, I find it impossible that they can't arrest the first suspect."
My family asked me to not stay at my house for now, at least to get some rest at night. And, well, yes, that's also a fear, that they could attack my family again because I'm seeking justice, because we're talking about people who aren't right in the head. So even if they're not part of organized crime, like the prosecutor's office already told me, they're people who aren't mentally stable and could act impulsively, seeing everything I'm doing for my daughter.
Her family members felt powerless, seeing how the investigation wasn't moving forward and that the possible culprit was free and at ease, while Ariday wasn't getting justice. The officers mentioned that they already had a suspect, but that they couldn't release any public information so as not to hinder the investigation. Weeks and weeks went by like this, until Monday, October 28th, at night, when the authorities arrested Ismail, known as El Chino. He worked as a night watchman on a ranch. He had no criminal record or any open investigations against him. The authorities watched him for a couple of days to see where he worked, what time he got home, what time he left, who he hung out with, and what kind of friends he had. Basically, they wanted to know everything about him to see if that information could help the case and the investigation, until he was handcuffed at his home where he resisted arrest. Finding him wasn't hard at all because Ismail kept going about his business as if nothing had happened. Only at first, a few days after the incident, did he hide, but a few days later he went back to his usual activities as if nothing had happened. Prosecutor Maria Elena Andrade said he felt that since he hadn't been arrested in the first few weeks, he had managed to evade justice. When questioned, Ismail declared himself innocent. He denied having gone to her house that morning. He denied having shot her, but he said something that struck the authorities as odd. He said that Ariday and he had a romantic relationship. He truly believed that every time he went out with Ariday, they were romantic dates, when in reality, Ariday always saw him as a friend, as her best friend's cousin, and nothing more. When Ariday started to distance herself, Ismail didn't take it well at all. He began harassing her on social media, and when she blocked him, he continued the harassment through messages. He was so hurt because Ariday was ignoring him that he decided to go to her house in the early morning and take her life. All because Ariday didn't want a romantic relationship with him. Ismail was in jail for over a year, waiting for his trial, while the authorities gathered information to prove that he was guilty. Not many details about the trial are known because Ariday was a minor, so the information is protected. But in May of this year, the verdict was made public. Ismail, known as El Chino, was sentenced to 48 years and 4 months in prison for the femicide of Ariday Rendon and attempted murder of her mother. In addition to the sentence, he must pay more than 685,000 pesos as compensation for damages to the victim's mother. Yvette said this in an interview. "I won't rest, daughter. No one will take this strength from me. I will fight for you and for all those innocent girls." Mexico is a very violent country, especially toward women. In 2024, 797 femicides were recorded. 80 of them were girls and teenagers like Ariday. In Mexico, around 92% of femicides go unpunished, which means that only about 8 out of every 100 cases receive justice through a conviction. What a feeling of helplessness. You have no idea how much anger and sadness this gives me. My deepest condolences to Ariday and her family, as well as to the families of the other victims. I hope they receive justice. That's all the information about the case. As I mentioned at the beginning, I did this because people were asking me to, so if you also have a suggestion for a case you'd like me to cover, please leave it in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. Seriously, I really appreciate it. If you like the video, please give it a like. If you haven't subscribed, you should subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!